Welcome back to the deep dive. You're here because you need to understand what's really going on with a major global event. And today we are definitely cutting through the noise.
We are.
We're diving straight into the high-stakes preparations for Ethiopia hosting COP32, the Conference of the Parties.
And the sources we have today are, well, they're not just general news clippings.
No, not at all. These are excerpts that really detail the strategic vision, the whole roadmap, and they come straight from high-level government briefings.
Exactly.
So if you're interested in what the Ethiopian government is hoping to achieve, beyond just running a convention successfully, this is the deep dive for you. What is the real mission here?
That is precisely our focus. We are going to unpack the high-level goals and commitments that were presented during this really crucial briefing.
The one led by Dr. Gedeon Timotheos?
That's the one. He presented it to the National Coordinating Committee, the NCC, which is, it's the body tasked with unifying all the prep work for COP32. It's basically the engine room for the whole operation.
And the weight behind this is, it's huge. Our materials confirm that Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed, he actually attended this NCC briefing. So this isn't just, some bureaucratic box ticking. This is strategic policy alignment at the absolute highest level.
It really speaks volumes about the perceived importance, doesn't it? And Dr. Gedeon Timotheos, who's got this dual role as foreign minister and the representative president of COP32, he summed up the ambition so clearly.
What did she say?
He basically concluded his whole assessment by stating that if they host this event successfully, it will yield a great legacy.
A great legacy.
Yes, and he used the specific Amharic phrase, Achinaitenhai.
Wow. Okay, so a great legacy. When a nation commits its highest leadership to something and then defines the reward in those terms, in terms of historical significance, the stakes are just massive.
They are.
So what does that legacy actually mean in this context? Is it about, I don't know, an economic boost, or is it something deeper?
Oh, it's far more profound than just a successful event or, a bump in tourism.
It's the legacy here. It speaks to a lasting transformation. It means achieving a permanent shift in Ethiopia's role, and by extension, Africa's role, in the entire global climate conversation.
So the success has to fundamentally alter how the world sees them?
Exactly. And maybe unlock new ways for the continent to cooperate on climate action long after the summit is over.
That sets the bar incredibly high. All right, let's jump straight into our first segment and really unpack what makes this particular COP so different. So segment 1, trying to understand the unique nature of this conference. Dr. Timotheos was apparently very clear when he was briefing the NCC. He said that COP32 is fundamentally different from other international conferences Ethiopia has hosted.
And that distinction is so critical because, Ethiopia is no stranger to hosting major international gatherings.
Not at all. Addis Ababa is the seat of the African Union. They manage huge diplomatic forums all the time.
Right. So if they, with all that deep institutional experience, are singling this event out as different, it implies a scale and a complexity that is just unprecedented for them. What specifically defines that difference, though? When we think of a COP, we think policy negotiations. Is the difference structural, or is it purely political?
It's both, really. But let's start with the structure, because that's what drives the need for this huge coordination mandate. Dr. Timotheos highlighted the inclusion of numerous side meetings and discussions, all centered on climate change.
Okay, that detail is actually really revealing.
It is.
Because a standard summit, it focuses on the big plenary sessions, the high-level declaration at the end. But when you talk about numerous side meetings, you're talking about hundreds of simultaneous specialized discussions.
Exactly. We're moving way beyond just presidents and ministers agreeing on principles. These side meetings, that's where the real technical work happens.
The nitty-gritty.
The real nitty-gritty. You have negotiators arguing over specific climate finance mechanisms in one room, engineers debating adaptation tech in another, lawyers hammering out compliance details somewhere else, and the private sector exploring green investment partnerships down the hall.
So the logistical challenge isn't managing one main venue. It's managing, like a dozen specialized ecosystems of debate all at the same time?
Yes.
And you have to ensure security, connectivity, translation, access for tens of thousands of people. This scale is what makes the preparation so critical, right?
Absolutely. And that is why the National Coordinating Committee, the NCC, needs to be so powerful and so integrated.
It can't just be the foreign ministry handling things.
No way. You're talking about coordinating infrastructure, internal security forces, the tourism and hotel sectors, and all the technical ministries like environment and energy. A glitch in any one of those areas, say the power grid or the Wi-Fi, could derail a critical negotiation happening in one of those side meetings.
It sounds like the NCC's job isn't just to prepare a venue, but
Yeah.
to basically create a temporary, perfectly functioning diplomatic city.
That's a great way to put it.
A city that's optimized for these complex, multi-track negotiations. And that complexity in itself raises the political stakes.
It has to, because failure to manage this technical complexity wouldn't just be an organizational flop. It would completely undermine the core strategic goal we're about to get into, this whole aspiration to elevate Africa's role in finding solutions.
Okay, that level of coordination and scale brings us perfectly to segment 2. This whole thing extends far beyond Ethiopia's national borders.
Critically so. The source briefing is very clear on this. It emphasized that COP32 has a significance that extends beyond the country. It has a distinct continental significance.
When we talk about the global stage, what does continental significance actually demand of Ethiopia? They're essentially taking on a leadership role, aren't they?
They are. They're representing the collective climate concerns and, frankly, the political aspirations of an entire continent, a continent that is highly vulnerable but also massively resource-rich.
So what does that mean in practice?
It means every single decision they make in this prep phase has to be viewed through an African lens. Africa faces these unique challenges, right? Severe climate vulnerability, but also high debt burdens, limited access to climate finance.
Right.
So Ethiopia's role is to make sure the outcomes of COP32 strongly reflect the continent's priorities. Things like making the loss and damage fund actually work,
Getting the money flowing.
ensuring equitable access to that pledged $100 billion a year in climate finance, and driving investment in sustainable, climate-resilient infrastructure.
So the success of hosting isn't just about national pride. It directly impacts the negotiating leverage of the entire continent on these vital issues.
Precisely. If Ethiopia pulls off the hosting flawlessly, it serves as this powerful symbol of African institutional capacity and unity. And that's why Dr. Timotheos stressed the mandate that the conference must be organized in a coordinated and integrated manner.
So that phrase, it's not just organizational jargon.
Not at all. It's a political necessity for them to have credibility on the world stage.
Okay, let's focus on that mandate for a second. If the preparation isn't integrated, say, if different ministries are all working in their own silos, how does that politically undermine the continental goals?
Well, a lack of integration. It just screams a lack of national capacity to manage something this big and complex.
It looks bad.
It looks very bad. If Ethiopia, as the host representing Africa, appears disorganized or, worse, internally conflicted, the international community might see that as weakness in the entire African negotiating bloc.
Sure.
It gives observers ammunition, evidence to suggest that Africa lacks the unified capability needed to be a major player in actually implementing global solutions. The integrity of the preparation directly mirrors the perceived integrity of the continent's voice.
So the coordinated execution, that's the prerequisite for achieving the great legacy. It's laying the foundation for the ultimate strategic goal, which is really all about narrative control.
Absolutely. The success of the logistics is the opening argument for their political ambition.
And this is where it all ties together in segment 3. The scale, the coordination, the continental focus, it all converges on one core strategic objective. This is the moment that really defines the purpose of the whole exercise for the Ethiopian government.
Yes, the strategic positioning is highly intentional, and Dr. Timotheos outlined this very clear two-part mission. It's all centered on shifting the global perception of Africa and climate change.
Okay, so tell us about that targeted narrative shift. What are the two parts?
First, they're acknowledging the current persistent narrative, which is that Africa is seen primarily as a victim of climate change.
Right. A recipient of aid, hit hard by a drought, a focus of vulnerability reports.
Exactly. That's the current reality they're actively trying to counteract.
And what's the second part?
The second part is the proactive goal. It's to use the successful, coordinated hosting of COP32 to make it understood that Africa is also, and this is the crucial part of the solution.
Wow. That is a fundamental recalibration of Africa's relationship with the global north on climate.
It is.
It moves the entire continent from a position of sort of asking for help to a strategic partner position, offering solutions.
It's entirely about strategic positioning. And for you, the listener, what this shift means is that the conference isn't just a plea for funds. It's a showcase
The showcase of what?
of African innovation, of resourcefulness, of political commitment. It requires them to demonstrate concrete actions. Showing off massive renewable energy projects, exhibiting unique agricultural adaptation techniques, highlighting policy mechanisms that could be scaled up globally.
So the goal isn't just to complain about vulnerability. It's to present Ethiopia and, by extension, Africa, as a kind of laboratory for effective, scalable climate action that the rest of the world needs to pay attention to.
That's it, exactly. And this brings us right back to the integrated preparation.
Yeah.
How do you credibly demonstrate that you're part of the solution?
You have to show it, not just say it.
You show it through successful, sophisticated execution. For instance, if the entire summit campus is run on certified renewable energy, or if their waste management is world-class, or if the infrastructure they build for the conference is sustainable and replicable, that operational success is the proof. It's the evidence.
So it sounds like the greatest legacy that NANN isn't a single diplomatic agreement signed at the end. It's the permanent change in the operating standard and the intellectual positioning of the continent.
Absolutely. The legacy is twofold. First, it's the institutional strengthening that comes from successfully organizing an event of this just unprecedented complexity. And second, it's the successful projection of strength and capability to the global community, cementing Africa's role as an indispensable co-creator of climate solutions.
This has been a really insightful deep dive into the strategic mind behind the COP32 preparation. Just to quickly recap for you, the seriousness is, well, it's underscored by the direct involvement of Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed and the detailed planning led by Dr. Gideon Timotheos. The challenge is immense, defined by its unprecedented logistical scope, all those numerous side meetings, and its ultimate strategic goal.
And that goal is centered on this massive shift from perceived victim to actual solution provider. The unique nature of this COP, compared to others Ethiopia has hosted, is defined by this explicit high-stakes political mandate.
It's an opportunity not just to host an event.
No, it's an opportunity to redefine Africa's place in the entire global architecture of climate governance.
And the commitment to coordinated and integrated preparation is clearly the mechanism they're using to achieve that narrative shift. It's their way of physically demonstrating competence.
Right.
So as we wrap up, here's a final thought for you to consider. If the successful hosting of COP32 is designed to demonstrate that Africa is part of the solution, what specific technical or organizational innovations in areas like security, energy management, maybe digital communication, what would serve as the clearest, most undeniable global indicators that Ethiopia successfully achieved this integrated preparation and delivered on their mission?
That's the key question.
That's the link between logistics and a lasting legacy, and it's something for you to explore as we close this deep dive.